and welcome to the Corporate Parenting Board. It's a virtual meeting held online here at 10 o'clock on Tuesday the 29th of March. So we have members of the board present and officers to support them. Apologies, I have apologies from Councillor Andrew Marchington, who would normally come on along and observe on behalf of the Children's Scrutiny Panel. Have we any other apologies, Jodie?
No, none other received, Chair, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Minutes of the previous meeting, assuming that people are in agreement with the minutes from the previous meeting, which was the 15th of February this year. Are there any matters arising that we aren't covering on the agenda? Anybody got any comments? No? Can we accept that these are an accurate set of minutes, please? I'm seeing agreement. Yes, thank you. Interest, can I remind board members, if you have any interest, please declare them. There is a form in the pack if you would complete that and send that to Jodie as soon as possible. That would be helpful. Admission of the public, there are no items on this agenda that are to be held in private, so that's open. Deputations and petitions, Jodie. Have we any deputations and petitions?
No, none received, Chair, thank you.
Okay. And can I therefore then move to agenda item 6, which is Colin Parr, who is the Strategic Director for Environment and Climate Change. And we've asked strategic directors in turn to come along to corporate parenting, because as we constantly say, corporate parenting is everybody's business, both within the authority and outside. And Colin is with us today to talk about an update of the service areas that he oversees and how they contribute to corporate parenting or could contribute. So can I ask, is Colin with us as such now?
I am, Chair. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, so if I do a brief summary of the directorate and some of my SLT as well, and then I've some specific areas. So I did have a look through the corporate parenting strategy that ended last year. It was quite light around contributions from my directorate, not uncommon for corporate parenting strategies. Yeah. But that was how I was proposing to go through it, Chair, if that's okay with you.
I think that sounds absolutely fine, Colin. Thank you.
Okay, great. So the directorate is split across 3 service directors. The first of those is Catherine Armitage, who joined us last autumn. Catherine oversees the service director area for environmental strategy and climate change. That includes the council's wider climate change programme. It also includes the directorate programme office supporting transformational priorities for the organisation and also for the directorate. Working on our environmental campaigns, delivery of our regulatory functions, so environmental health, air quality, environmental protection, also the delivery of the energy team, the home to school service, so the operational delivery of that team, working with colleagues in Joanne's part of the world, and then the licensing service as well, which covers about 40 different regimes, sort of ranging from alcohol and entertainment licensing right the way through to street trading. And also working next year, we'll be looking at developing the corporate enforcement unit, building on the complex enforcement team that currently sits in Catherine's part of the world, looking to bring our enforcement resources across from the organisation into one place to help us deal with those more complex cases, which often involve not just different council services but other agencies as well. So that's Catherine Armitage's block of the directorate. The service director for highways and street scene, Wendy Blakey, retired from the authority last week. So last Wednesday was Wendy's last day, and she'd been helping with that role on an interim basis. I think this is actually the first formal meeting I've been to since Wendy left. So I'd just like to use this as an opportunity to thank Wendy for all of her support in that role and other roles over many years. A very valued member of staff, and a member of staff that's been an absolute godsend and real help to me in my time at the authority as well. We've appointed Graham West, who's going to be joining us from Wakefield, and we'll be starting next month. Sorry, no, we're not quite in April yet, so we're starting in the middle of May. Graham is currently head of highways and transport at Wakefield, and he's very eager to start, and I know has been over and done a few days here already, and will be doing lots of introductions over the coming weeks and months. So street scene and highways includes our highways service, which includes road safety as well. Also within that block of services, parking services, the urban traffic control centre, fleet services and transport, which services our fleet for the wider council. So there's about 1,000 vehicles there. Our street cleansing operations, our green space, ground maintenance and parks, and of course waste services as well. So quite a significant block of sort of frontline environmental services within that service director area. And then the final part of the directorate is culture and visitor economy, which is headed up by our service director Adele, who started in that role last summer. That includes our creative development team, our visitor economy team, the museums and galleries service, also the events and festivals team, and the programme team that are working on the exciting proposals for the Year of Music next year as well. The other part of Adele's area is a much more commercially focused block of services, which includes venue management and the town halls, our market service, our catering service, which primarily provides support to schools and has been recognised as recognised as the best last year school catering service in the UK, which is a fantastic achievement. Our cleaning services, a caretaking service which supports our facilities, and also bereavement services. So that's a sort of a very quick whistle-stop chair of the directorate and the services that sit within it. From my perspective, in terms of corporate parenting, I think that there are probably three areas immediately where I think that there may be opportunities to build on the strategy as was and contribute as we move forward in terms of new plans. People will have picked up from the services I described, particularly within highways and street scene and culture and visitor economy. In terms of headcount, the directorate is the largest in the authority. I think we account for about 45% of the total headcount of staff within the authority. So I think that in terms of care leavers and supporting care leavers into work, I think that if we look at the authority as a significant employer in the borough, I think there's definitely a role in that space for the directorate, be that supported apprenticeships, be that work experience placements, and I know we are doing some of that through apprenticeships as well, and the team have spoken to me about some of the work we're doing, but that's the first thing that for me, looking at the size in terms of staff within the directorate, where I think there are clear opportunities to support care leavers. Two other areas, and I did go through heads of service to come up with a bit of a long list, but I didn't want to sort of just go through a list with you. I wanted to give you some sort of focused areas. I think the first one was around climate and environment and environmental sustainability, and whether there's more work we can do with looked after children in particular to support. We know through the Climate Youth Festival that we did last year, and we've got another Climate Youth Festival lined up in September, so that'll be our second. We had incredible reach. It was a virtual event, but is there something we could do a little bit more in our role as a corporate parent that we link in to the youth festival? I don't quite know what that looks like yet, but I think there's something potentially to build on there. And the final area, not dissimilar, is there something we can do again in our role as a corporate parent to support celebrating the Year of Music next year, which is a huge initiative that's going to be taking place, and are there opportunities we could build on there? So they were they were the three things that I'd like to sort of put to the board today for your thoughts, and I think if what we get back is positive endorsement from the board, that I'll embed into my service planning for next municipal year. I hope that's helpful, Chair.
I think that's very helpful. Thank you very much, Colin. And I see a hand up straight away from Colleen Kenworthy, who was one of our foster carers and also the foster care network leads as well. Colleen, over to you.
Yeah, hi, yeah, Colin. Yeah, fantastic that you're going to put opportunities, apprenticeships and maybe Saturday jobs. It's just letting foster carers know what's available. Sometimes we don't get to hear these things, so we can't encourage our children to step forward into those roles. And it's just making sure that when things are available, it's distributed around a bit better, if you know what I mean, than it has in the past, so that we can all, share that information and get our kids into, a working lifestyle and moving forwards really into a positive, working for the council as well, which would be great.
Do we, Chair, at the moment, do we have any sort of a thematic jobs fair for care leavers to support them in their journey to employment? And if we don't, then perhaps that's something at a directorate level we could do to do something and share that widely across our carers network, to talk about some of the opportunities that do exist, particularly the routes into apprenticeships. I think that could be something that we could take away, and I could ask colleagues within the directorate to liaise with Joanne's team about perhaps building on. But I don't know if that's something that we might do in some guys already or something similar.
Yeah, we do have CK Careers and they work individually with the children, but there's nothing like a massive fair or something that we could all go to, or even if it's an email about jobs or something. Obviously, looking at our statistics, I think we've got 54% of our children that are in education or in jobs. So there's 45% missing out of care leavers. So we need to be getting in when there's 16, a Saturday job or something, to give them that, that work for life kind of outlook, really. So anything would be good. We do get emails off Cal. Cal are really good at emailing us and letting us know what opportunities are, but we don't seem to get anything else from anywhere else in the local authority, which we're hoping that, is it Sarah says she's going to try and link that up with us afterwards, but as of yet it's not happened as yet. But we'd love to get our kids in some form of work to get them into that mindset. So yeah, anything would be good. Thank you.
I think, Colin, you just touched on a bit of a gem of an idea, because there isn't any sort of targeted jobs fair or event that is targeted at our children who are looked after and our care leavers. And I think a steady circulation of information to foster carers and the foster caring network is one thing, but I think at least a 1-year event that, care leavers, foster carers, special guardianships and so on could be invited to, and our children and young people, that really starts to focus them on, directions of travel and things to do, or, just experience of work, would be absolutely good. And it isn't just about the authority, it's our partner organisations. We had the lead officer from the CCG here to the last corporate parenting board, and I was asking her to consider what they could offer in terms of employment, work experience. And if that was a bringing together, that might be a starter for getting information round as well.
And also you mentioned about the music festival. My kids have worked with a project called Safety Music, which is brought about by crime prevention with West Yorkshire Police. They do like DJ sessions and how to do lyrics and things like that. I think that would be against hate crime and knife crime and gang crime. I think that would be a fantastic, modern look on music festival, as well as a traditional, if that was something that you consider. They have worked with your West Yorkshire Crime Reduction Team, and they've been sponsored by them to run certain workshops. And I do think it's The DJ is absolutely amazing. He's right down to earth. He's studying. He's gone back to education to be able to teach as well. So it's really, really a fantastic idea if it's something that we could run with.
Fantastic, yeah, and the Children's Directorate have really embraced Year of Music, putting some dedicated resource into the Directorate as well. So I imagine that there'll be an exercise quite soon to capture all of those work streams that are taking place, and use next year as well as potentially some pathways to provide some platforms for young performers to get out there and show what they can do. And certainly some of the stuff that we've seen so far, there's been lots of community groups producing some fantastic material, and I think next year is a real opportunity for us to help people showcase that. So I know that Kath and the team were recently at Mel's SLT, and I know that they've had a number of discussions, Joanne, with yourself, and there will be some resource coming. I think recruitment was very recently, was it, Joanne?
If that's okay, I can come in. Yeah, we're really excited about the opportunities for young people and the Year of Music. And yeah, we've increased some capacity, and it's how best do we link that across all stakeholders. So you're right, Colin. Really exciting opportunities for young people, but and that also translates into work opportunities. So yeah, those conversations have started, and additional capacity has been sourced. So we need to make sure we include all our youngsters, but yeah, particularly as in our role as corporate parents. So really exciting times with the Year of Music, and it really links to our learning strategy as well, our Kirklees Futures. So it feels quite exciting time for opportunities from the early years right the way through into that world of work. So yeah, great ideas that are coming forward this morning.
Yeah, lovely. Each time there are these fabulous events, I really would like a focus on our children and young people who are care experienced, and you know, come and ask our colleagues in fostering and kinship carers as to how best to link them in, you know, and our experts like Ophelia and Elaine as to the direction of travel to do that. But hey, Colin, you've got us all excited, really, I think, this morning, and I think what you've sparked off are some really, really key ideas that would be really beneficial. So I am aware you have another meeting to be in. Is there anything else you want to add into this?
No, Chair. I think I mean, in terms of the Year of Music proposals, I think if we've got enough content, then I think that there could be a show in it. So I think that you know, that could be really positive, and I think there's a good thematic show there that'd be, you know, a fantastic story to tell as well, and a great addition to some of the stuff we're already doing around engaging young people in Year of Music. I think in terms of the jobs fair, that's something we'll take away, and I'll speak to Joanne about, you know, contributions we could make to that, and that there definitely are opportunities in terms of work experience, internships and routes into apprenticeships. There's also seasonal opportunities, which we sort of get into that point. So I'll see what we can share across the network that's there now as well. And we didn't touch on the Climate Youth Festival, but I am on a tight timeline, but I'd be happy to come back and have a discussion actually about the environmental sustainability strategy and how we could engage with looked after children, care leavers as part of the development of that key strategy, because again, we know that there's a real appetite from all of our young people to support our environmental and climate aspirations.
Yeah, I just before you leave, I see Ophelia has a hand up, is wanting to come in with something, but there's 1 minute of Colin's time left.
Yeah, no, it's just really quick. It'll be less than a minute. Just want to know, have you got a lead officer that I can make contact with? Because it's really important, because I head up the Looked After Children and Care Experience Service. So I'm really keen for us to have a clear plan and to get this progressing. So is there an officer that I can make contact with?
So I think in the first instance, contact me, and I think I feel it'd be good to get you to come to my SLT, where we'll have a bit more time and we can really pad out some of the details of these, and then we can present that back as and when appropriate back into the board. So yeah, contact me and come along to the SLT, and we'll pick up these issues in wood, because the three things I picked is one from each service director's area. So I think it's probably good to have an SLT discussion on it.
Okay,
Lovely,
thank you.
lovely. And Colleen, you've got your hand up again. Is it desperate? He needs to go.
Just a quick point. Thinking with the
Okay,
jobs
Chair, it's
opportunity
okay.
at PEPS, and Louise is probably going to not like me for this one, but maybe there is a mention through PEPS 16 on regarding apprenticeships or the jobs. Just a thought.
Could you just
What do you
repeat
think,
that?
Louise?
It's echoing like mad.
I was just thinking that. Hang on, I don't know what's going on here. Put on that one. I was just thinking that with PEPS, any job opportunities could be mentioned in those for 16 pluses, maybe.
We do tend to mention them if there's opportunities where the young people are suitable and it's the right steps for them. They are always raised in the PEP meeting.
Right.
Particularly, they always have in years from sort of halfway through year 10 through year 11. They'd also have the careers advisor meetings where they'll start discussing those things as well. So if we know there's young people who are interested in certain areas, whether it be that they're looking at further education in a certain area or whether they're looking at apprenticeships in a certain area, if there are opportunities that come up in those areas, we do ensure that they are brought into the PEP meetings.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for that. Colin, just to let you go back to the meeting you need to be in, but can I thank you? I think that's been very stimulating and quite exciting about some ways forward. So thank you very much for your time. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for letting me come. Cheers.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Okay. So if we could move on then, please, to item 7, which is the Children's Performance Highlight Report. You're going to lead off on this, Ophelia, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, just in relation to the looked after children and the care experience, in brackets, care leavers data. In relation to the data, we are seeing an improving picture in relation to the work that we're doing. In relation to the numbers of looked after children, you'll see from the information that there is a decrease on last month. So we are now currently at 615 children looked after. But I've got a fuller report that sets out that as a result of that, we have 490 children who are subject to a special guardianship order. And I think that's a really good news story, and that's clearly set out in the overview report that I'll come back to in relation to that. Just in relation to, we continue to be concerned about the numbers of our children, young people who are in employment, education and training, but we've got a focus in relation to that, and I think it's really refreshing that we've had Colin Parr attend. So again, in relation to being able to link into and really embrace the wider opportunities for our young people, so they get the opportunities to aspire and achieve. So I think that's really important. So I'll hopefully work with Colin and other colleagues to look at having a clear plan to address that. Just in terms of the children and young people, you'll see that there's been an increase in the number of placement moves, and that has been as a result of notice, and I think there have been some issues, I think, in relation to carers, the experiences of young people through COVID. That's had an impact in relation to individual wellbeing and presentation. But I think it'd be helpful when Sarah, colleague, talks about what we're doing around fostering and increasing the numbers in relation to that. Do you want to come in, Sarah, just in terms of the fostering?
I don't know if you want me to come in now, Chair, or whether you want me to talk later in terms of what we're doing about marketing and fostering. But obviously, Ophelia and I work closely together around placement stability and placement moves, and we meet weekly, every week, to look at children and young people's potential problems around stability. So it is an area that we have sharply in focus.
Okay, I mean, you'll go into some more detail about fostering and
Yeah.
recruitment later as such.
I will.
So that's in relation to the information that I want to share at this point. That's it, 'cause I have got the full overview report that sets out the work that we're doing across the children looked after teams. So if I can hand over to, not sure who wants to pick up,
It's me
Louise.
next. Yeah,
Okay,
Kate.
Louise.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so all young people in care aged 3 to 18 years should have at least one that's personal education planning meeting each term. At the moment, we continue to work virtually, and so we're still attending all of the PEP meetings, and that helps us continue to hit 100% of all our young people who have had a PEP each term. With regards to those that come new into care, 96% of all initial PEPs have been completed within 10 working days of coming into care, with 100% actually completed within 11 working days. So there was just a few that were unavoidable, but we actually completed those on the 11th working day. We continue to work across the service with social care to meet the education needs of young people. Attendance remains hard to compare due to the COVID absences. We're continuing with the COVID absences as well as the start of the year. We still had COVID lockdowns at times, but we continue to monitor attendance for all young people closely, and we are working individually for young people to support those young people where there is attendance concerns or they aren't in a full-time offer of education. So we're continuing to monitor and intervene where those are the case. And I think that's the main areas that I needed to cover today. So if there's no questions there, I think I can hand to Jill.
Before you do,
Yeah.
can I ask a question? And I'm just
Yes, you
looking
can.
to see if colleagues have any questions, but I'm not seeing anyone at the moment. I mean, it's really good, the 100% personal education plans being done in a timely manner and what have you, completed. And you're doing those virtually. Do you feel that there's any disadvantage to doing them virtually, or is it enabling things to move forward and they are just as relevant to young people when they're done virtually as in face-to-face?
Yeah, I think the advantages weigh out any disadvantages. We've found that because the virtual school are attending all meetings, you've got an educational professional who's there to support and challenge within the meeting, which adds to the quality of the meeting for all young people. When we were travelling to the meetings, we were only able to maybe attend 40% of the meetings because we'd be travelling across areas to get to the schools and get to the meetings, whereas we can work, you know, from meeting to meeting a lot better now. And so I think the positives definitely outweigh the negatives. Some young people prefer it, other young people not so much, but that's all personal preference, you know, with the young people. Some young people attend the PEP meetings that other young people don't. So I think at the moment, I would say the advantages still outweigh the disadvantages. Where there is a necessity for us to attend in person, we would attend in person, but we have a clear criteria where that is the case, where we think that it would be better if we were to attend in person. However, at the moment it's working really well, and we've seen a massive increase in the quality of the PEP meetings since the lockdown and since we've moved to that virtual offer.
That's really interesting. I'm a bit startled, and I hadn't realised that some young people didn't attend their own personal education planning meetings.
Some of them, if they're taking place during the day in particular, don't want to come out of the lessons. They've already missed so much education. Some young people don't want to necessarily be identified as a child looked after, and so don't want to be pulled out to meetings regularly in school. But we do always ensure that we've got the young person's voice within the meeting. So school have a set of questions to ask, and we ask that carers and social workers also speak to the young person if they're not going to be in the meeting, to bring their thoughts to the meeting.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else? Any comments or questions for Louise? No? Can we move on then to Jill and the health section of the report, please?
Morning, everyone. Morning. We'll start with the initial health assessments. These are assessments done within 20 working days of a child coming into care. The data that you see at the moment for the 12-month rolling programme is 85.9%. For the month of February, from health data, 100% of them were done in timescales. At the moment, these are still having to be done in two parts, and that's because we're still not able to have clinic sessions like we used to have. So the paediatrician has the discussion, it's a telephone assessment to start with the social worker, the carers, the birth parents, if that's appropriate. And then following that, the child and the carer invited into clinic. So that is impacting on us, but having said that, 100% were done in timescales. When I had a look at this rolling programme for the initial health assessments as to why it's different, I thought I'd just have a quick look at the numbers, and there's only 4 children in the last year that were done late out of 139, and they were an IT issue. 1, a child was not brought, and 2, we weren't informed that the child had come into care through the IT processes, so nothing untoward there. Review health assessments, again, the 12-month rolling data is looking extremely good. It doesn't often happen this way around, but 91 and 91.6% of children under 5 and over 5 had their review health assessments done in timescales. This is showing really good because last year the capacity in the team seemed to manage better, and our health assessments have got really back on track. But we've noticed through the year that all health teams are struggling, not just our own, with capacity, and some of that is linked to COVID and having to isolate, etc. So not being able to do things totally in timescales. But the locale and monthly data for review health assessments shows that 72% of under 5s and 60% of over 5s were done in timescales. What that means is that if a child had their last assessment done on the 16th of February, for example, it has to be done, if it's an annual one, by the 16th of February this year. What I had to do, I had to put contingency plan in for my team. I think I explained this last meeting, but just for anybody that wasn't on the call then, this was to reduce the pressure in the team, because sometimes if it was due on the 16th, it might be a weekend, a bank holiday, and it's quite unfair, but the IT systems don't recognise that, and they will just say that it's late. And also I needed to let my team look at and plan their visits a bit easier for them to be able to make sure that all the assessments were done in the month that they were due. Now, I have asked them to really look at trying to get them all done in timescales going forward now. And I know that's still putting pressure on them because my business case hasn't gone any further just yet. We've developed it to look for some extra staffing, but they did make a significant effort in February and the data did go up. So I'm really appreciative of them putting that extra effort in. Dental checks, the rolling 12-month data shows that 63.8% of children age 1 year and above had attended the dentist. Now, again, this is taking into consideration data from last year when dentists, although they had opened last year, had not caught up with their regular appointments that we all go to. So unfortunately, that data is still capturing those children that maybe hadn't been invited yet just for their regular appointment. But what I can show for the monthly data for February was that 73% of our 80-month-old to 4 years and 100% of our 5 years and above did attend the dentist in February. So that's showing that our monthly data shows what's happening now, which I think is quite valuable, really, that things are definitely, back on track. Registered with a dentist, 89% and 93% of children, that's the young ones and then the older ones, are registered with a dentist. And if we look at who isn't registered with a dentist, it's more likely to be children who have moved placement, are new into care, or young people who actually refuse to go and then they can't be kept on the register of certain dentists, but it's very low numbers. And the use of the flexible commissioning project is continuing to help us to make sure that all children, including care leavers we now know, can be registered. So that's good. And the substance misuse, although it did say on your data that it's gone up slightly, it's actually the same 7 young people. These are young people that we know have got a significant issue with substances. But do you know what? That was when they were asked at their last review health assessment, and that could have been 10 months ago, and by now actually it may not be an issue. So you just have to be really careful with the substance misuse information, that it can be quite old, because these are older young people who are only having their health assessments done annually, and that is when they are either asked or we delve to find out what the situation is, but it's the same young people. There may be other ways that this could be captured, perhaps through the social workers who know their young people so much better, and it might be situations that they know about are happening now. You couldn't ask the substance misuse services in the community for this figure, because they will only have who they actually see. And we do know that all our young people are offered a service with them, but some people will refuse to attend. So it's quite difficult capturing this information, but it is the same 7. We haven't actually got any more at this point.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Jill. Any questions or comments from anybody on Jill's part? No, I think you must have explained that so well, Jill.
Thank you.
No questions at all on that.
Thank you.
So, for the rest of the performance report, are there anybody who's going to comment on any of the youth justice part? Not seeing anybody. No. And then anybody able to give any further information about adoption as such?
In Councillor Kendrick, in terms of the adoption, I think people will see with the data that actually some of our conclusions are out at a long, lengthy time scale. We're doing a specific piece of work to understand our decision making from the point of initiating of care proceedings to that final decision of actually, it's not only placing for adoption, because then it's the decision made by the adopters to actually go for the final order, and what that pathway looks like and what might prevent some of that decision making. So I hope that we can bring a fuller report back to Corporate Parenting Board in the near future to give us a real understanding of that decision making process and why it's taking longer for some of our children. When I know as an agency decision making for some of our smaller children, the decisions are made in a real timely way. I think it's some of our older children, sibling groups and children that may have some additional needs. But that's my understanding, but I need an evidence base for that, so we have a full narrative and understanding. Yeah,
I think it would be it's quite important that does come back to a future meeting where we've got a bit more information and clarity around it, Elaine. Thank you. Colleen, you got a comment or a question?
Yeah, I was just going to raise the same point really, just with our physical neighbours and, you know, with the England benchmarking, you know, we're going back up to 500 and nearly 10 days. It needs to be going the other direction, doesn't it, really? That's what I'm saying. I'm glad that we're looking into that, and thank you for that, Elaine.
I think that will be useful. Any other comments or information that needs to be shared for us on the performance report? Not seeing anything, so thank you everybody who's contributed to that. So if I could move us on then please to agenda item 8, which is page 27 in the pack, and this is Children Looked After Overview Report. Ophelia undertook to provide us with bi-monthly detailed information on this, which she has done. So over to you, Ophelia. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Just in relation to the report, I'm not going to go through that in detail because I'm hoping that all board members have had the opportunity to read through the detail of the information. There's just 3 points that I wanted to highlight, and then I'll open back to the board for any questions. So just wanted to focus on the number of children that we currently have looked after is 615 children, young people. And I know there have been some concerns raised about our numbers, but we've done a lot of work in relation to ensuring that we maintain and keep children at home within their families. And as you can see from the report, we've been successful in continuing to secure special guardianships orders for our children, young people, which as a result has meant that they've been able to remain with connected carers or kinship, family and friends. So and I think that's really positive in relation to that. And currently we have a total of 490 special guardianship orders, and if we added that in terms of that cumulative data, we would have 1,000 children and young people looked after. So I think this is a really good news, positive story for our children and young people, because they are remaining within their family community networks. In relation to just looking at, and again, since January, and again, there's a supporting evidence that we continue to successfully gain special guardianships orders for our children. So since January 2021, we've successfully secured 51. So again, that's really a good news story, and it again shows that we are promoting children remaining at home. We've also, in terms of our ongoing data, we've continued as well, or we've successfully returned 50 children back home to their family as well. So that's had an impact on the number of our children looked after. Just in terms of ethnicity, because I know that was one of the areas that I wanted to highlight. So within the report, it sets out the breakdown of our children, young people within Kirklees and their ethnicity. So currently, we've seen an increase in the number of Asian children who are becoming looked after. So in February of 21 last year, in terms of February 22 this year, we've now got it's increased to 10.2 in relation to that. And I think there is a lot more work being done with the communities and making sure that the right children are becoming looked after appropriately. But we'll continue to have a view on that, or keep a view on that. And we'll continue to update you. So just in terms of the report, I'm just opening it up to any questions from the board members.
Questions or comments, colleagues? Councillor John Lawson.
Thanks, Chair. There's the significant number of special guardianships has risen. That's risen quite quickly after that sort of quite good piece of innovation, I think, and that new way of working and that way of kind of exploring that way of working. It seems to have risen quite quickly. How are we reassuring ourselves that those 490 placements, if you like, are being properly supported and resourced, given that quick expansion? Are we comfortable that we've got sight of everything that's going on? I just wanted to ask about that, about the process that we've got goes behind that.
Ophelia, would you like me to comment?
All right, yeah, I was going to comment. Yeah, if you're happy to do so, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lawson. A very interesting question. Actually, what we've done over a period of time, actually, and although it seems like a rapid increase, that's not necessarily the case. It has grown over a period of time. But what we did as well, we recognised that actually the commitment of families to take on children, particularly where you've got grandparents that are at a point sometimes where they're looking to retirement, that we needed to although we offer practical support, there were some elements around financial support as well. So families weren't left in any detriment financially. So the decision we made in terms of reviewing our financial policy to support SGO placements is actually pay them at the level of our foster carer rates. And that is, although initially previous procedures were around for a 2-year period, we're making a commitment to the child being up to the age of 18. We do have a connected persons support team as well, and we have support groups out in the community. And actually our support group is seen to be one of the most positive across West Yorkshire. So we have done a lot of work. Some families don't necessarily want the support, but actually what they are aware of, they have a support plan at the point that the SGO is made, and they know that at any point that they can come back and get the additional support, whether that's through mainstream. What we've just done, which is really important, is move that support team out into early support, so that actually our families can have that universal offering, that broader offering in the communities, as would any family in a community. So they're not having to come to a specialist service for that support, and it's not seen as interventionist. It's very much that the lowest level, the right type of support at the right time. So I think that's why we're seeing the shift, because families feel able to commit to those children, because there's some wraparound as well. We're not just leaving them to sort of manage on their own in isolation. So
I think why I was asking is through personal and anecdotal experience, there's sometimes a lack of understanding on either side of that relationship about just how that works and just what the opportunities are and just what can be expected from each side. And it was reassuring to know that all that is in place and that we're not being a victim of our own success, if you get my drift. So that's kind of what I was looking for.
And absolutely, and it's overseen by the courts. The decision is overseen by the courts, in most cases through care proceedings. There's a children's guardian usually involved, always in the court proceedings, a children's guardian that takes the perspective of the child, that will actually make, support the decision on behalf of the child or not. Our viability assessments are really robust. That was recognised by Ofsted in our inspection last year in their visit, that our decision making and assessments are really robust to make sure that actually children are placed in the right setting. And actually where we don't feel family members can make that commitment for whatever reason, we know then that we have good quality foster care as an alternative, and they can actually be often be a conduit between the child and the family.
Yeah, I mean, as with foster carers, it's half the story, isn't it? Is the placing,
Yeah.
The rest is or perhaps it's 10% of the story. The rest is what happens afterwards.
Absolutely.
But it's great to hear. Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, thank you for that. I have to say I get invited and go to quite a lot of the SGO and kinship carers events that they have, and I talk with them and they talk about the support they get and also things that they would like to have support with, which I feed back. I think very much like foster carers, kinship carers, SGO carers, will be facing the same as we all are, issues around cost of living and what have you. And I think we probably need to have a careful eye to the future around that for those carers too. But thank you for that. I can't see any other questions as such, Ophelia. I'd just like to comment on how pleased I am to read in the report about the practice learning days and actually the findings that come out of it, because to me that demonstrates that constant seeking to improve quality and also look at what it is we're doing and how we're doing it, and it gives me huge confidence about how Children's Services is constantly looking to improve, so thank you for explaining and giving the information about that. Colleen, you've got a question or a comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank everybody for the staying put policy now that it's been officially launched, and I think we should have some kind of proper launch party for it. Really, it's really a massive step forward, and it's something that I think is leading really in the local authorities around here. I just want to say thank you for working with the carers and the care leavers on that. That it's really a massive step forward to be able to support our children post 18 and for them to want to stay with us as well. So I'd like to say a massive thank you for that. So can we have a proper launch like we did for Mockingbird, please, so that everybody can come and attend and ask questions and moving forwards, because we ought to be singing praises for this, because it really is innovative. I think better than Leeds. So there you go.
Well,
Hey.
Colleen, could I comment on that? I think what we're not very good at is celebrating all the good things that we are doing, and we have got some really good. It's taken us time, so a bit of an apology on that, because I know you've been waiting a long time for that, and it was to get it to the right place. And I think, and then there was still some further work, but I think that co-production and that working together makes it. And actually, what it does, it places value on the foster carers, but it also places value on our children, because, you know, as a parent, as a grandparent, I'd have my children living at, no, I wouldn't have them living at home, probably longer than I did. But, you know, we don't send our children off early unnecessarily, do we? And so giving them that opportunity to stay where they've, you know, felt loved and belonged has been really important. So, yeah, I think we should have a launch, because I think we should celebrate some of the really great things we're doing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
I know everybody's busy, but, you know, a launch sounds a good thing, and you're right, we don't celebrate enough the tremendously good things the service does and achieves. John, is that a legacy hand, or have you got another question?
I'm afraid so, Chair. I beg your pardon.
No.
Oh yeah, lowering it. There we go.
Lovely. I'm not seeing any other questions. Oh, Colleen's got a hand up again.
Obviously me. Yeah, when we were talking about foster carers and, you know, supporting foster carers, we have been talking with management teams regarding skills levels and allowances for children, and how they haven't really risen in the last 8 years very much. And obviously with fuel prices, food prices, petrol prices, everything going up, I know it's on the agenda to look at. I just wonder if we can look at it a bit more urgently, if that's possible. And, you know, just supporting our carers, really, whether it's, can we introduce free council tax for foster carers as that keeps going up? Can we have Kirklees priority passes? I think that's something Barry was talking about the other day, just so that we can give Kirklees carers, you know, a better supporting hand in the community where we can, you know, even if it's CAL passes for them to get fit and healthy, as well as everything else, as another incentive as well, you know, to pinch us from other places. You know, if you're getting a free gym membership, then, or free council tax, it's a massive part of your outgoings, really, as a carer. So whether that could be something that could be considered. You know, the Kirklees priority passport, I think Councillor Kendrick, we did touch on it a while ago, didn't we, if you remember? But I don't think we haven't really looked into it since, I think, with pandemic and everything. So whether that could be an option, I don't know.
Okay, before I bring Sarah in, who's keen to get in there, just to say, I will ask that question at portfolio briefings. What are we doing and where are we on a regular basis? And I also chair an informal meeting which is looking at the pressures, if you like, about tackling poverty or financial challenges for residents of Kirklees, and I will bring that into the discussion there, which I think is later today, but there we are. But Sarah, we'll undertake to keep following that up, Colleen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Colleen, as you know, the finances, we've discussed those previously. What I would say is that we have currently got a draft financial policy in place that follows on from the skills levels I highlighted in the revised statement of purpose. That will come out for consultation, and that will include additional bonuses for foster carers, such as the CAL passes, which I know are being progressed and could perhaps update at the next corporate parenting board around those. But in terms of your skills level updates and what we currently pay, not just in terms of monetary, but also in terms of other benefits, that is currently in draft at the moment, and I hope to bring that out for consultation in the next week or so.
That would be great, thank you.
That's good news, isn't it? It's further on than perhaps we thought as such. So
yeah, we've been talking about it for a while, so it's nice to see that something's happening now. So thank you, Sarah.
Yeah.
Thank you. These things can't and don't happen overnight, so they take a lot of work.
Hopefully worth waiting for, though.
Absolutely. Well, I think there's a good track record that's so far that says the council has got some things that were worth waiting for. I think we are, unless Sarah, that's another hand for a comment. No.
I'll lower it.
I think we will conclude that report. And can I just say to Ophelia, thank you so much, because I think that is a really, really good and effective report, and look forward to future ones, and also the alternative ones about care leavers at corporate parenting board in between. I think that really, really helps board members get to grips and understand much more. So thank you very much for that extra work, Ophelia. Can I move us on then, please, to the statement of purpose for fostering service report, which Sarah Miles is going to just take us into?
Yes, thank you. I don't intend to talk through the whole document. I hope to highlight a couple of points. I'm hoping that having had sight of it, it's fairly self-explanatory. We've revised our statement of purpose in line with the work that we've been doing with regards to the modernisation of the fostering service. The new statement of purpose evidences our aims and objectives for the service, our children and young people and our carers, as highlighted on page 6 and 7, and how we are achieving these and intend to achieve them. We want the same things. I think the statement of purpose highlights that we want the same things for our children, young people we look after, as any good parent would want for their child, and that, you know, our aim is for them to grow into to achieve their full potential. The statement of purpose highlights, we've already touched on, the skills level payments. It highlights services available. It highlights the work that we're undertaking with our placement support team, how we're looking to develop our support around our foster carers, our children, young people, and also how we're looking to expand our Mockingbird offer. In terms of page 13 and 14, that highlights our review process and the work that, and we've been doing a lot of work around our foster panel reviews, and we're currently undertaking to recruit a second independent reviewing officer to strengthen that process. And again, the statement of purpose highlights our intentions and our aims and our aspirations around foster carer reviews. And without repeating myself, page 16 and 17 again looks at our our current foster carer finances and allowances, and as we've previously touched on, looking at drafting a financial policy that is currently in draft, out for consultation with other documents that will support the statement of purpose. Of note within that, excuse me, is our marketing and our recruitment, and again I've mentioned already today about marketing and recruitment, and I'd like to make an offer to come back to corporate parenting board to talk in depth about the current work that we're doing about marketing and recruitment, because as been indicated, our number of foster carers we'd like to increase, and not only just in terms of recruiting them but retaining them, and we have previously reported on retention and deregistration, so I don't want to repeat those messages and that work that's already been shared. But in terms of recruitment at the moment, we have, I just like to give a quick update, we have 12 fostering assessments ongoing, 19 active stages at inquiry, so that's really good, and again that's highlighted in our statement of purpose about how we aim to strengthen our recruitment and our marketing strategy. So at the moment, whilst we have indicated and discussed some of the concerns around our in-house foster carers, we have 31 current cases at the moment in terms of the recruitment team active. So again, within the statement of purpose, we talk about the work that we've been doing and intend to do around that. So whilst the statement of purpose doesn't capture that work, I'd like to come back and talk about some of that work that we have been doing that is indicated within the statement of purpose but not evidenced within it.
Okay, thank you very much. Questions or comments? I'm not seeing any hands, so I'll start, and perhaps people may join in as such. I know you made mention of Mockingbird, and I'm I'm just wanting to make sure all board members are clear about Mockingbird and what it is. If anybody wants a further explanation, we can provide that, but not looking like it. I suppose I am desperately keen for us to have more in terms of Mockingbird. You know, I always want more. Have we got a time scale as to when a second unit might be developed?
I can't provide you with a timescale today, but I could provide you with an update in terms that I had a conversation just yesterday evening with colleagues around the second constellation and the offer and how we're going to progress that. So I could come back to the next board again with an update on the Mockingbird progress.
Yes, yeah, I'd really like to hear when, you know, I long to drive these things forward quicker. Tomorrow will be fine, you know.
I'm working very closely with the placement support team and with my colleague in head of service around what the Mockingbird offer will look like. And again, like I said, I had a conversation around that last night, and we're looking at our second hub and our constellation. That was the conversation yesterday, so I could bring an update to the next meeting.
Lovely, thank you. Elaine, you want to comment on
I think Councillor Kendrick, because Mockingbird sits under Kieran Law as part of the placement support, it might be helpful to have Kieran, is on leave at the moment, to come and talk about the developments in the placement support, as well as the MST fit, and where all the triangulation is and where that fits in with the work with SAR as well. They work very closely together. It's how we bring the dimensions together, really.
I think that's a good suggestion. For me, you know, I'm not looking at it as a whole. I see Mockingbird, I know how effective it is, but I know it can only be accessed by a few families, you know, foster families who might benefit from it. Which is why I'm constantly wanting, what do they call, another constellation and another sort of thing. But I do recognise there are other support mechanisms around, and I'm not seeing it as a whole, so that would be useful. In the performance report and in the Feelies report, we did note that in terms of ethnicity, there was an increase of Asian children and young people coming into care, and I'm just wondering how successful we are in terms of recruiting foster carers who have an Asian background as well, you know, to support that.
What I'd like to do is to come back with those figures in that report. But what I would say is that I've just had some updated information from our marketing recruitment officer, who has been out doing some work with our community cohesion and wider groups in our communities around seeking inquiries from all of our diverse communities for foster carers. So I could bring the actual figures to within that more detailed report about what we've achieved and what we are currently undertaking, for if you'd like that, you know, either at the next meeting or the following meeting, depending on agenda items. But we are doing a lot of work within our wider communities to bring in foster carers from across all of our communities.
Yes, I think that will be useful, because it you know, I think there are relevant families who would step forward if only they knew there was a need, if you like, and getting the message out is tremendously hard. And I recognise that, you know, people just see foster carers and for a lot they just think, oh, that's nothing to do with me, that's not for me. And actually I think we have to change that. And I have a third question, really sorry.
It's okay.
About IFAs, independent fostering agencies. And is there any piece of work, or do we intend to do a piece of work to compare and contrast what it is that they offer that it is better or different from what we offer as a council? Elaine's got a hand up because she's coming straight back at that.
I'll let Elaine answer first then, Chair.
No, Councillor Kendrick, there has been a piece of work done about this previously, and there are different layers within the IFA provision. So it starts at, you know, there are different levels depending on the needs of the children, and almost to a degree it reflects how we do our skills level internally. I think actually if we're looking at our financial policy and we're looking at payments to foster carers, it's the timing's right to look at actually the IFA provision. I think when we look at internal foster care, so we look at the payments of foster carers, but what we don't take into account is the placement support cost, the supervising social work costs. So when you add that all together, this is what I was saying actually to Barry earlier on, sometimes actually the cost is not so different. It's about the location often, and about that really we want to invest into our local community first and foremost, like reinvest. So I suppose if you did a comparison, the differential financially would not be so great, but actually it's a broader understanding than that. And I think they're the things that we have to look at, investing into our economy first and foremost, rather than to other settings if we can. And that's why we really need to work on that marketing and really engaging individuals to become local foster carers.
Yeah, thank you for that. Any other questions or comments? No? I'm just aware we are tending to run ahead of time in terms of David Shepherd is due to join us at 11:20 for item 10, and we are in front. So I don't know whether we take the virtual school governing body update now, because we are ahead of time a little bit. Is that Louise who's going to do that?
I believe we haven't had another virtual school governing body meeting since the last corporate parenting board, Councillor Kendrick.
Right.
So we need the next governing body meeting, and then we can do an update from the governing body.
Right, fine, okay.
Thank you.
And therefore I'll move on to item 12, which is a verbal update on Children's Ambition Board, which I think you're going to do, Elaine.
Actually, I wasn't at the Ambition Board.
But I was.
No, I wonder though, I mean, Ophelia, did you or Joe attended, didn't you, Joe? Apologies, I was on leave, taking some time off.
Chair, I'm happy to do a brief update from Children's Ambition Board that took place not last week but the week before. It was a really brilliant opportunity to reset with all our partners and just remind people about 3 key priorities that the Directorate is working to support children. So we had an update on our Kirklees Futures, which is the district's learning strategy. We were able to have an update about our SEND, Special Educational Needs and Disabilities Transformation Plan, and that was led out by Tom. And then we absolutely are aiming for outstanding children's services at the next time we are inspected by Ofsted, and there was 3 prongs to that presentation. We heard from Kieran Lord, we heard from Christine Bennett about New Beginnings, and Ophelia, I didn't know whether you wanted to update on the third. Sorry if not.
I wasn't there, sorry. Oh. No, that's fine. So the third strand was around the contextual safeguarding in relation to, and Charlotte Jackson presented that at the Ambition Board.
And so we were able to also have a look at highlights of the data across the Directorate. So some of what's been looked at Corporate Parenting Board this morning, but also we reviewed the timeliness of our education, health and care plans and compliance. We looked at high level Key Stage 4 and Key Stage 5 outcomes and attendance. But it was a really useful opportunity to be really clear about what the priorities are, and how we intend to achieve and progress on those 3 key areas. Highlights are as well that a real focus at the next board will be about early support and the early support progress of the whole partnership, not just the council's early support team. But I think it was it felt like quite a jam-packed agenda, but really great to have that holistic view across all the aspects of children's services. Hope that's helpful, colleagues.
I think that's very helpful, and you get a gold star for having to jump in there, Joanne.
Thank you, Jo.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. And if we look at item 13 as well, updates from board members on interactions with services. Anybody got anything to report or comment on? No? No, well, I will then. I went to a Young Parents Network meeting virtually, and I also failed to do the opening part of Home Starts Young Parents event because the YouTube connection wouldn't work for me. But I managed to do the summing up at the end of it. But that was a whole morning event a couple of weeks ago, which was really interesting. It was done on YouTube, but the technology defeated me. But it was a really useful event with a lot of young parents telling their stories about what had happened in their lives and how they'd achieved and how the support had helped them. So it was a really good event as such. And I see that David Shepherd has kindly joined us. We're running a little early, and it's kind of you to come now, David, as such. So David is the Strategic Director for Growth and Regeneration. And in the same way that Colin Parr joined us earlier, he's come to talk to us about his service areas and the ways in which he possibly those service areas possibly do already or could play into support and help for our looked after children and our care leavers. So welcome, David, and thank you for joining us now.
Very much, Councillor Kendrick, and I'm very pleased to be invited to today's meeting. I've got some updates to give you in terms of the corporate parenting role as it is in growth and regeneration, and the contribution that we make. However, as Councillor Kendrick says, I'm more than happy to discuss what else can happen as well. But if I just start off just a very quick pen picture of the directorate, because I'm conscious that some people will know it intimately, others less so. But Growth and Regeneration was formed just less than 2 years ago with the senior reorganisation within the council. That's when I came in. We've got 3 parts of the directorate that are all headed by service directors. So one part is homes and neighbourhoods, so it's all the council housing, the 22,000 homes, all the landlord function that goes with that, and that's Naz Parker heads up that. Then we have skills and regeneration, which is headed up by Edward Highfield, and that includes our planning and building control function, our employment and skills function, our business support and business engagement functions are in with skills and regeneration, and our major projects, the transport projects that we deliver across Kirklees are all in there. And then the third area that we have is development, and that's headed up by Joanne Bartholomew. We have within development our town centre regeneration teams. They're dealing with the big programmes across the Kirklees district. We also have our property teams who deal with all of the asset and facilities management and capital programme delivery arrangements across the council. We also have our housing growth team who build new homes, including new council homes, as well as promote larger sites such as Dewsbury Riverside and Bradley Park. And the final area that we have that sits with Joanne is housing services, which are the strategic housing services. So things like housing-based support, which many people on the call will be familiar with, but also homelessness, rough sleeping responses, the adaptations responses as well, and delivery of adaptations in our private sector housing resource, both in terms of the engagement but also enforcement sits within there. So that's a very quick pen picture, but more important is what we're doing in terms of corporate parenting. So there are 5 areas that I wanted to talk about, which are young people's housing pathway, which again, I suspect this will be what people are aware of already, but then I want to go on to the pre-apprenticeship programme, the multi-systemic therapy, family integration, transition in homes and neighbourhoods, the fostering and adoption, kickstart, and our social value approach. So there's quite a lot there, but Councillor Kendrick, if you want me to stop at any point, just say so. Just stop me if I'm in free flow. Please do, because you've heard me a number of times before, haven't you? And I do have a tendency to just keep talking if people don't stop me. So please do. So in terms of young people's housing pathway, that sits within homes and neighbourhoods, but also working with housing solutions, and that's giving targeted support and packages of support to tenants that are under 25 years old to improve sustainability of tenancies. The young people include care leavers, obviously important for your agenda, and there's assessment that is undertaken and bespoke individual support plans that are developed with the relevant services across the council, particularly within children's services. This young people's pathway is not mandatory and it's not a one-time only offer. We recognise that might be something that is right at particular points of time for the young person, but we do want to ensure that there are regular checkpoints throughout the young person's tenancy, that support is able to come in as and when required, to ensure that ultimately that we're aiming for a successful outcome for the young person for their tenancy, and hopefully the two go hand in hand. If there's additional support needed, then that can be added to the pathway. So be it money advice, income management, employment support, those kinds of things. All of it is with, if we're doing referrals, it's with the young person's consent. It's not doing two. It's obviously working with the young person. In terms of who's best placed to offer the support, again, there's a discussion around that with the young person around whether that's homes and neighbourhoods, whether that's the housing support service that we have, or KBOP. We've got support in terms of all care leavers that are engaged, that are council tenants. So we are able to refer on to specific employment supports from within homes and neighbourhoods. It's something that we are looking at how we ensure that that benefits from the wider employment support that does sit within the directorate, but it's not just a bespoke arrangement just for tenants, but wherever young people might find themselves, whether they're in our tenancies or elsewhere, we'd like to think that we're able to offer that employment support, because we recognise that's part and parcel of a successful pathway for a young person. So there are a number of other updates that I could give you in terms of a young person's housing pathway, such as our allocations policy, where we're giving young people priority on that they get the highest priority, the band A. And again, the councillors will know that that's not the the solution to everything, because there are a lot of people that we're dealing with, and there are restrictions in terms of the number of properties that become available, but we're doing the best we can in order to give young people, particularly care leavers, the highest priority they can have in order to access accommodation, because we recognise as well that this is if Mel Meggs was speaking to you now, she'd be talking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. She's no doubt talked to you about this before, where you deal with those those bedrock needs, a roof over someone's head, and then you can start layering on the support once you've got stability. And we recognise that we've got to achieve that stability in the first instance. The other thing that we do is recognise that the support, that the accommodation support may be coming from elsewhere. So foster carers, we're able to give award band C in terms of accessing council accommodation. So again, we recognise that it's not just young people applying directly, but other people that they may well be accommodating young people. So that's a very, very quick canter through the young people's housing pathway. If I move on to the pre-apprenticeship programme, and again, this sits within homes and neighbourhoods, so it's quite well linked into the support. So building on those needs and ensuring that we can address those. A 26-week unpaid study programme for 16 to 18-year-olds that starts late September every year. We want to engage people as they're entering young adulthood, so that we can build on their skills and that they can be successful in terms of labour market engagement. In terms of young people in council properties and care leavers using council services and also working with the college and CNK careers, we look to bring all that together so it's a seamless arrangement rather than the young person themselves having to negotiate a myriad of different people. I see a hand gone up. Chair, do you want to stop me there?
Let Colleen come in. She'll be asking.
Hi, I'm Colleen Kenworthy. I'm a foster carer for Kirklees and also chair at KFN. I work very closely with looked after children, but we don't seem to get any information as of such to direct to carers. It might be in the hands of CK Careers or everybody else, but carers don't actually see very much of the pre-apprenticeship placements. I've never seen anything yet. I do get information from Cal of their job vacancies, but we don't, as a carer, I don't actually see anything. So I would be promoting it to my children if I could get access to the information. So I just wonder how we can share it better, please, if that's possible.
Yeah, and again, it's things like that I really do welcome your feedback. If we've got programs that we think are running fine because we're getting people onto them, but they're still not understood or people are aware of them who could be benefiting, then we need to know that. So Colleen, I will take that back and I will ensure that we do distribute, and again working with Joanne and her teams to ensure that we distribute information so that everybody gets access to that. Okay, so I take that on board.
It might go to CK Careers, but if we can have something just direct to carers, because we can, help encourage them to, into working environment as well, which we like to do.
Okay, I'll take that on board. Again, we recognise in terms of pre-apprenticeship programs, because this is it's a medium-term engagement, 26 weeks, and trying to ensure that people that our young people, particularly care leavers, are sustained throughout that. We're not always going to be able to do that, so we have got support available if people disengage. That we do look to ensure that we continue to support people. And again, it's not like a one-time failed approach. We do look to ensure that if things don't particularly work out, then we can ensure that either that young person is able to participate in other programs or other people are able to take advantage of that particular placement at that time, so we don't lose the opportunity for young people within Kirklees. If I move on then, in terms of, I mentioned MST FIT, the multi-systemic therapy, family integration transition. And again, this is homes and neighbourhoods working with children's services teams and other teams throughout the council. It targets 11 to 17-year-olds with behavioural difficulties for reunification with families and to get them out of care. Housing Solutions and Homes and Neighbourhoods have worked closely with the MST FIT team to rehouse the families. Most of the kids will have a stay Navigate Healed House, which is the intermediate transition model, whilst the MST Fit team work with the young person and the family and work with to identify a suitable property. From a policy perspective, the allocations policy review that we're going through at the present, we're just embarking on, that's going to explore how management lets could accommodate this as opposed to bidding on choose and move, because I mentioned previously that, you know, given priorities, it's great, isn't it? But you're still bidding for available property. There's still competition there. So the management lets, I mean, I've certainly experienced this elsewhere, where direct management lets, taking the property out of the normal allocations policy. In many cases, if we're able to do that, that allows for a better match of property with the young person or with the family, and to ensure that there's a higher potential for success. We do. The caveat to that is that I think everybody on the call will know that we have, whilst we've got just short of 22,000 properties, having we don't have a great supply of properties and turnover every year. So the more we take out for direct management the less is available for everybody else. And it's a question of priorities, but that is something that we're actively looking at, recognising that you get a few chances to get things right for young people, particularly young people coming progressing through our care system, and this is one of the opportunities to add some value to the services available to them. In terms of homes and neighbourhoods and the support around fostering and adoption and the work that we do there, recently we've worked with our colleagues in Children's Services and Directorate to find a solution to a fostering problem. This is just anecdotal, but there was an uncle willing to raise two children with his family, but council home that he lived in wasn't big enough. There was no property of adequate size available in the stock. So the solution that the service came up with was a pod extension that was craned into the property and created an additional room. It's a good outcome for the kids and for the family. So sometimes, it's not looking at a one-size-fits-all solution. It's looking at, well, what's right in those particular circumstances, and how can we use the resources that are available to us to bring solutions. And if we can do that, again, I'm just giving you that by way of an example, that there are creative approaches, and again, the services are very keen to engage, because we won't come up, homes and neighbourhoods won't all necessarily come up with those solutions. It's working with families concerned, but also working with other support staff who are engaged and understand those family and community networks and how important they are, and how important a property in a particular location is as well. So again, there's a lot I could say about Works. I've got Works Better, Kickstart, and Social Value. Rather than go through in the same level of detail that I've done with the others, I can send you information on these. I'm conscious of time, and people probably want to ask questions or just get into debate. But we do have a dedicated employment and support function in my directorate now, working with Joanne and Tom's teams in Children's Services, and we engage with all the partners. So whether it's Kirklees College, C&K Careers, as has already been mentioned, and we develop bespoke arrangements, particularly around neat care leavers. We have an action board that's in place that's monitoring and managing the employment support that goes into people who fall within that category, so that it's not something that the staff who are supporting are just left to fend on their own. We've got those overall governance arrangements in place that ensure that we can pull in additional support as and when necessary. Our Kickstart programme, which is the government-funded job creation scheme and wage subsidy schemes, is available for young people, and we do promote that at job fairs, and we do look to actively engage young people, particularly ensuring that we can apply that to care leavers, working with some of our private sector employers. Some of that was hit during the pandemic because there were fewer private sector employers coming forward with vacancies that could be sponsored through the Kickstart scheme, but that's starting to gear up again now. So my message to you all would be that there are more employment opportunities becoming available for young people as the economy bounces back and the resilience of companies has shown through the pandemic. They're now in the recruiting stage, and in a lot of sectors they'll be looking for people to move into entry-level jobs, whether that's hospitality, logistics, or whatever. There are a number of different sectors where there are entry-level jobs where we can work through the Kickstart programme to ensure that the employer receives funding, but the young person gets a support package around them. And finally, the social value arrangements. This is something that's always evolving within Kirklees. So our procurement arrangements, where we buy in services, and we buy in a lot of services in my directorate because we have to flex in terms of the regeneration programs that we're involved in. We do require those organisations working with us to actively demonstrate and deliver in terms of social value. So an example of that is on the Cultural Heart at the present time in Huddersfield, which is a large-scale regeneration programme in the centre of Huddersfield. And even in its formative stages, we've not entered the main stages of construction, and indeed that's something that is subject to cabinet decision at a later date. But even in the formative stages, the strategic delivery team that we've pulled together, we have asked all of those external companies to deliver in terms of social engagement with young people, working with our schools and working with our young people throughout the district, so that they get opportunities of working with employers. To inspire in many respects young people that they can be part of Huddersfield and Kirklees' regeneration, and they've got the skills and they've got the knowledge, and hopefully we can build the confidence that they see that they could be leading those kinds of programmes in future. So it's something that we've been keen to do from the start, and engage care leavers within that process. But it's not something that we would just say is just for the one scheme, such as a flagship scheme such as the Cultural Heart. It's something that we want to be standardised throughout our procurement process, that we add social value and we think about how we can help young people, but particularly care leavers, through that process. So, Councillor Kendrick, I'm going to stop there because I need to breathe, but I also need to hand back to you.
Thank you. My wrist's aching. I've been trying to jot some notes down at speed, so I've forgotten how to do shorthand, so it doesn't work anymore. I think you have a lot of further information probably documented, and we will welcome anything if you want to send it on to Jodie. It can be circulated. Thank you for that. I'm just looking round at the moment. I suppose I'll start off with a question, if I don't mind. It may be something you don't have to hand as such. The pre-apprenticeship scheme, how many places are we talking about? You were talking about it being 26 weeks. For how many places are we talking?
Yeah, but you're right. I don't have that information
fine
on me at the present time, but I can get that information. And
what
we tend, where I've worked on these on pre-apprenticeship schemes in the past as well, is it's not necessarily limited by the number of places. It's engaging young people and making sure that they see it as something that is that works for them. I'm really pleased that the schemes that we do run here in Kirklees and in homes and neighbourhoods are very well attended. They're attractive. I've been and met the pre-apprentices when they were a couple of months ago when they were starting at their pre-apprenticeship programme, the 3M BIC in Huddersfield. So we have a number of those starts within a year. So there's not just a one-off opportunity.
Right.
And what we've found as well is that we seem to have somewhat of an insatiable appetite for bringing new people, new recruits on. Particularly that scheme that I was talking about there is construction. So there's a number of different construction skills, but you think about the amount of construction activity that we're about to embark on, and we're already engaged in many respects. We do have opportunities to bring young people through. It's making sure that we have the right support package around them, because pre-apprenticeship is one thing, isn't it? But in order for an apprentice, for somebody to succeed in that, go into an apprenticeship, and for that to succeed in them to get a job out of it, some of our young people may require additional support wrapped around that. So we would make sure that those packages are available. But I can get you the number.
Yeah. I was just interested as such.
Yeah.
And you've talked about engaging with care leavers a bit. I'm really interested as to how you do that.
Well, there are different ways of engaging with care leavers, so it depends which service. But in terms of homes and neighbourhoods, sometimes it won't necessarily be direct to themselves. It would be through children's services and working with link officers there in order to engage with young people. It depends whether, and then obviously if we're bringing somebody onto an employment programme, then there's direct engagement there. But we wouldn't necessarily be the front door ourselves. It's making sure, and I think the point that Colleen mentioned before, that that only works if people are aware of it, doesn't it? From good point raised, and if
I think she wanted to come back on that actually.
No worries.
Yeah, I was just going to say, obviously letting us know, but also about PAs as well, so they can be pushing as well.
The personal advisors that each
personal advisors, from 17 plus, they can also be a window into that, not just for the other bits to do, but obviously to get them into education, out of education, as well as into employment as well, if that's the right move for them. Yeah. So it's just using all the resources you've got, really, rather than thinking, oh, it's getting out there. It's pushing it more, isn't it? So we can get our young people engaged. That's all.
Yeah.
Ophelia, you wanted to comment?
Yeah, no, I'd just like to come in on that. We are already doing work. Because again, for me, it has to be earlier than 17 and a half. It has to be 15 and a half, 16 in relation to that planning and those aspirations. So that's the focus of the work. We're already linked in with Phil Mark. And Louise Hallis in relation to thinking about how we can triangulate and ensure that we're creating and seeking those appropriate opportunities. So I think it's about how do I link in with the board around having that oversight around children not in employment, education or training. So I just think there's a bit of a disconnect, really. So it's about how do we ensure that we're all connected up in relation to the work that we need to do going forward. So I'm really keen, and it's one of my priorities, is around making sure that there is that early planning, the early thinking, those things around aspirations. What is the role of the personal advisor? What is the role of the social worker? What is the role of our carers to ensure that we are creating those aspirational opportunities for our children to achieve?
Yeah, and I mean, I'd have to agree in terms of the earlier engagement, the better. And from my perspective, you mentioned Phil Marks, Gillian Wallace, who works in my service, works alongside Phil Marks in order to ensure that we are able to bring all of our employment and skills support together. So, Ophelia, I'd encourage you to liaise with. You already do with Phil, obviously, but if not, to Gillian as well. And I'll make the point around early engagement as well.
Yeah, that would be helpful. I think it is. All sorts of loads of good stuff, David, that you're talking about, but it's about how we proactively target that at our care leavers, our young people in care, and those who are around them, whether it's social worker or carer or, it's about getting that right, isn't it, really?
I think so. And the other point that I would add is that also, I mean, I mentioned before about we try and make things seamless from the young person's perspective, but also if we're targeting support, how that support comes to a young person is really important. And again, I'm teaching you how to suck eggs with this, aren't I? But we can make it very, very confusing, can't we, if there's multiple support offers coming through different areas, and that is likely to lead to failure as well. So channeling that and ensuring that the right people are aware, as Colleen's already mentioned, as Ophelia says, that comes at the right time as well, is as much part of success as having all those tools in place that you can go to.
Yeah. In our conversations with Colin earlier, we were talking about even the possibility. I know there are lots of job fairs and things that happen, and in the service areas are very proactive in those, but almost a targeted job fair aimed at young people in care and care leavers, so that foster carers can go to kinship carers, those with special guardianships, our young people, our social workers, our PAs. And perhaps you might want to, I'm not asking you to commit to anything here, but have that sort of ongoing conversation with Colin and see whether we can take that further forward. And Ophelia is very much a key contact around that, as is Colleen for the Foster Carers Network. Colleen, you wanted to mention something?
Yeah, it's definitely something I would encourage foster carers to come to, whether it's put on, you know, in little pockets somewhere, or as even a virtual meeting as well, you know, just to get us into that mindset that we need to be encouraging. And, you know, we'll try and find Saturday jobs wherever we can, but obviously if it's led by the council and it's more apprenticeship led, that would be even better for our young people. So we'd go anywhere us to get us children into, you know, the mindset of work. So long as it's not Scotland. Too far for me, that, but anywhere else is fine locally.
Okay. I am very aware of time for you, David, and I know you've other things to do, and we're at 11:40 as such, and I think you need it to be back elsewhere by now.
Yeah.
Anybody else with any questions? Or I think we'd love some further information if you could send that through.
I'll send
David.
it on. Yep, I'll send it on.
And I think, you know, a little focus on earlier and focused opportunities for our young people is what we're seeking anyway.
Yep. Okay then.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kendrick, and thank you everybody for listening to me and being ever so polite with your questions. Much appreciated.
Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Sorry, Colleen, were you wanting your hand up again for the question?
Just one last thing. It was whether we could get children's rights involved as well. You know, they're really good at getting young people inspired and stuff, and whether they would be involved in the careers fair, maybe something like that.
Yeah, I think that's a good thought as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go on, Sarah.
Yeah, I'll speak to Anna Gled Hill, who manages the children's rights team, as you know, Colleen, and just triangulate the conversation so she's aware of it.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much for that. That's felt a bit of a whistle-stop tour, and we're still in front of ourselves with time, but I can't help that. I'd be glad to donate you back some extra time. I think unless anybody has any particular issues they want to raise, the only thing I think we have left to do is the agenda plan, which of course now will be in the next municipal year that we'll be looking at. And I don't know if there are particular things that people want to see added to the plan in view of some of the conversations that we've had, or whether we feel the plan is as is. I think we've got supported lodging schemes for the new municipal year, as well as an adoption report. We've got the standard things going forward. We will look for who else we might invite to come and talk about how they contribute as corporate parents, because I think that's been quite useful. And hopefully it's got you some ins in there, Ophelia. And I know your voice will be strong enough to make a take as such. Are there any particular issues that board members would like to see on the agenda in the coming year as such? I'm not seeing anybody. It doesn't matter at the moment if nothing is coming to your thoughts, but if there is something further, if you would drop by the Jodie Harris an email, or myself, or both of us, and we will look to include those. I think we've got some strong movements. Well, we have some strong regular items that I think are important for us to have an overview and know that the service is going in the right direction. We've already talked about things coming forward about further support for foster carers and encouraging new foster carers, so that would go on as a matter of course anyway. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think we have run out of agenda items. I'm so surprised, but thank you all for your attendance and your contributions, and I think I'm going to close this meeting as of now unless anybody has anything else, and I'm not seeing any hands. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.